Shinjo City, skilled hitman Sakata finishes sharpening his blade and drives off in his luxury car. Later, at a beachside house, Yakuza thugs report to their boss Kawano that a new gang is attempting to seize control of the city. Irritated by his men's incompetence, Kawano plunges a knife into one of them and slashes his face as punishment. Meanwhile, outside the compound, Sakata stealthily infiltrates the property, systematically eliminating every guard in his path. When blood begins dripping through a window and a man's legs appear dangling from another, the remaining men finally realize there's an intruder and rush to evacuate Kawano to safety. While Sakata continues his deadly assault on the rooftop, the men attempt to escort Kawano through the front door, only to find it blocked by corpses. They redirect him to the second floor instead. Sakata expertly wields his blade, cutting down the thugs pursuing him and sending their bodies tumbling down the stairs. Kawano eventually reaches his car, only to discover his driver is already dead. After eliminating several more attackers, Sakata is hurled through a glass door by a particularly large gangster. They engage in brutal hand-to-hand combat, using furniture and any available objects as weapons. Sakata falls and his opponent pins him down, attempting to deliver a fatal stab. However, Sakata manages to sever the man's hand, leaving him to bleed to death on the floor. Sakata then proceeds to Kawano's bedroom, using a thug's corpse as a shield against Kawano's desperate gunfire. A terrified Kawano attempts to escape through the balcony, but Sakata quickly catches up and delivers the killing blow. When another thug tries to ambush Sakata, he's immediately gunned down by Sakata's handler, Fujita. As they leave the compound, Fujita pays Sakata for the successful mission and asks him not to retire. However, Sakata refuses, stating that his family is now his priority. Unknown to them, someone watches from the shadows. Afterward, Sakata returns home to his wife Aoi and daughter Ryo, taking a shower before joining them for dinner. While changing clothes, he hears his family screaming and discovers several men wearing traditional demon masks surrounding his loved ones. The masked intruders thank Sakata for eliminating Kawano's gang, as it has allowed their organization, the Kaimengumi, to assume control of the city. When one of the men grabs Ryo, Sakata tackles him and prepares to shoot, but freezes when another thug fires a warning shot at the table. The man begins brutally beating Sakata on the floor. Ryo begs the attacker not to hurt her father, prompting Aoi to rush over and shield her daughter while tearfully pleading for mercy. Tired of her crying, one of the men coldly shoots her in the head. Enraged, Sakata tells Ryo to run before attacking the intruders, but another man shoots the fleeing girl. As Sakata breaks down in grief, the gang leader explains that according to local legend, a demon possesses someone in the city once every 50 years, driving them to commit mass murder. The Kaimengumi's sacred duty is to protect the city from such demons. Despite his anguish, Sakata vows to kill them all one day. The leader says they'll await that day before shooting Sakata as well. When police discover the scene, they assume Sakata murdered his family before taking his own life. 12 years later, Mayor Tsunohara addresses the press, explaining how he transformed Shinjo City from a crime-infested wasteland into a thriving metropolis of progress. He announces the opening of an integrated resort featuring a theater, shopping center, and casino. Journalist Kamiyama attempts to question him about the numerous disappearances and murders over the past decade, including the assassination of the leader opposing the resort construction. However, Tsunohara dismisses these concerns as baseless rumors. Meanwhile, Sakata has spent these years in a vegetative state within a medical prison. When his sentence finally ends, Fujita retrieves him and takes him to a rundown apartment in the slums, proving the city isn't as prosperous as the propaganda suggests. Days pass with Sakata being cared for by Fujita's relative Raj, who bathes him, feeds him, and takes him on walks. One evening, while returning to the apartment, a criminal suddenly attacks them, stabbing Sakata's arm while screaming his name. The attacker turns out to be the thug whose hand Sakata severed years ago, seeking revenge. However, Sakata remains completely unresponsive. Simultaneously, Kamiyama meets with the scarred thug to inquire about the Kaimengumi. The informant believes Sakata was hired by the Kaimengumi, and Kamiyama notices the attack date coincides with the resort receiving its business license around the time Tsunohara became mayor. The thug reveals that the Kaimengumi funds their operations through human trafficking and illegal drug trade. Their conversation is interrupted when a masked man smashes the van's window, causing Kamiyama to flee in terror. The attacker pursues him with a hammer while a second masked figure drags the thug from the vehicle. They place the hammer in the thug's hand and force him to commit suicide at gunpoint, watching him die before receiving an important phone call. At home, Fujita practices ping-pong while reflecting on his role in revealing Sakata's family to the Kaimengumi, though they ignored his pleas to spare their lives. He receives a call with shocking news. At the hospital, Police Chief Kotaro visits the victim of an apparent homeless altercation. He bribes the two guarding officers to take a break, then enters the room revealing the patient is Sakata. Kotaro dons a demon mask, identifying himself as one of the Kaimengumi members who murdered Sakata's family. As he prepares a syringe, Kotaro explains that 12 years ago, when the group discovered Sakata had survived, they received orders not to kill him again, though Kotaro always believed they should have finished the job. He injects the substance into Sakata's fore, unaware that his voice is gradually pulling Sakata from his vegetative state. When Kotaro prepares to take a selfie, he notices Sakata beginning to move. After accidentally falling, Sakata grabs Kotaro and forces him down, beginning to strangle him. However, Kotaro strikes back with nearby objects and delivers several kicks to subdue him. The officers return, forcing Kotaro to remove his mask to avoid being shot. Once the guards turn away, Kotaro replaces the mask and shoots one officer in the face, using a pillow to muffle the sound. The surviving officer isn't surprised, as he's also part of the Kaimengumi. When they discover a doctor witnessed the murder, they eliminate him as well. Suddenly, Sakata awakens and attacks Kotaro, prompting the corrupt officer to defend his superior. A three-way fight ensues, with the officer becoming trapped between the bed and wall while Kotaro continues kicking Sakata. Sakata manages to strike Kotaro's head before attempting to strangle him with the foreline. Kotaro defends himself, and during their struggle, they accidentally push the officer through the window. Sakata tries the foreline again, and when Kotaro removes it, Sakata finishes strangling him with bed sheets. When Fujita and Raj arrive at the hospital, they're shocked to see Sakata walking out under his own power. He grabs food on his way out, triggering memories of his family's murder and intensifying his thirst for revenge. News of Sakata's awakening reaches the Kaimengumi, including operatives at their illegal factory and human trafficking operation. The leader is delighted by this development, calling Sakata a demon loose in the city and beginning an ancient celebratory ritual dance. Fujita soon receives a message from the Kaimengumi demanding Sakata's corpse. The group drives to the factory, where Sakata's body is supposedly delivered in a bag before Fujita and Raj depart. Once the bag is placed on a conveyor belt, Sakata emerges and strikes a guard before leaving the room. Factory owner Takamoto observes Sakata fighting multiple employees through security cameras and immediately alerts the gate guard, who opens fire on the van. Raj is killed instantly, but Fujita is only wounded and returns fire. After consuming his own product, Takamoto dons the mask, identifying him as one of Sakata's family's killers. Sakata methodically moves through different sections of the factory, eliminating every thug in his path using improvised weapons or smashing their heads against walls, railings, and machinery. A worker attempts to crush him with a loader truck, burying him under trash, but Sakata throws a knife to kill him. Another worker in a cart opens fire, prompting Sakata to leap onto him, derailing the vehicle and stealing the gun to eliminate several more men. Additional workers jump into the cart with him, but Sakata kills them with his knife before leaping off just before the cart crashes. Still driven by vengeance, Sakata continues ascending through stairs and corridors, killing all who attempt to stop him. Upon reaching the office floor, he discovers Takamoto already outside, pressing a button on his phone. The building explodes and Takamoto receives a congratulatory call from the leader, who witnessed the destruction. However, Takamoto ends the call when he sees Sakata emerging from the burning building, protected by a blanket. Another fight seems imminent, but Takamoto is suddenly run down by Fujita, who collapses while coughing up blood. He apologizes to Sakata for betraying his family's location and accepts that he deserves death, so Sakata doesn't hesitate to shoot him. Afterward, Sakata captures Takamoto and begins torturing him, but Takamoto only laughs and swears loyalty to his leader. When Takamoto's phone rings, Sakata hears the leader's voice. He furiously destroys Takamoto's mask as the leader reveals that his daughter is still alive. The leader is revealed to be Mayor Tsunohara, who explains that all criminal activities generate revenue for the city's development. If Sakata wants to see his daughter again, he must release Takamoto. However, Sakata kills Takamoto anyway. The next morning, reporters cover the previous night's attacks, blaming them on Sakata and falsely reporting his death in the factory explosion. Meanwhile, Ryo has grown into a teenager, watched over by Kanta, another masked Kaimengumi member who manages their human trafficking operation and leers at her inappropriately. Sunahara calls Kanta, ordering him to locate Sakata, who has been hiding since the incident. In a modest neighborhood, police officer Takegawa returns to his apartment and notices an open window before being startled by Sakata's presence. Years ago, Sakata had saved Takegawa's life, and since then the officer has been secretly passing him information. Takegawa shows Sakata footage of the Kaimengumi murdering a security company CEO, along with the victim's severed finger. This company now handles security for the new resort. After stealing Takegawa's gun, Sakata infiltrates the security company headquarters, eliminating thugs on every floor until he discovers a hidden living space. While Ryo hides behind a couch, Sakata finds a board covered with photographs of his daughter alongside Kanta posing as her father. Kanta enters at that moment, and the two men immediately engage in combat. While Ryo uses the opportunity to escape, Sakata overpowers Kanta and throws him around the room's furniture. Kanta retaliates by striking Sakata with a table before attempting to shoot him. Sakata dodges and fights for the weapon. When Kanta hits him with a decoration and hurls insults, Sakata finally recognizes him as his wife's killer. The gun jams, and Sakata prepares to finish him, but Ryo suddenly returns, calling Kanta father, before shooting Sakata with her school bow. Too shocked to dodge, Sakata takes the arrow in his chest before Kanta pushes him through the window. Kanta looks out to see Sakata escaping in a car driven by Takegawa, who takes him to a safe location to remove the arrow and treat the wound. Takegawa receives a call from Sunahara, who spotted him on surveillance cameras and asks to speak with Sakata. Sunahara tells Sakata that if he wants to see Ryo again, he must come to the resort. Ignoring his injury, Sakata drives to his hideout to retrieve his old blade and luxury car. Meanwhile, Ryo is imprisoned in a room at the resort, which is heavily guarded on every floor with numerous armed men. Sakata's empty car appears outside as a distraction while he infiltrates the building, using his blade and weapons taken from fallen enemies to eliminate the guards. He improvises with available objects like cargo carts and fire extinguishers. The battle continues as Sakata ascends the stairs, never stopping his killing spree as he climbs higher. Most thugs fall easily, but he eventually encounters a swordsman who manages to wound him before being killed. Pushing through the pain, Sakata continues until he faces Kanta again. The men fight with seemingly equal skill. As he expertly dodges attacks, Kanta makes disturbing comments about Ryo's developing body, offering creepy descriptions. Kanta attempts to stab Sakata, but he stops the blade, receiving only a scar on his cheek. More thugs pursue him, and by the time Sakata reaches the final floor, he's exhausted. Entering a room, he's shocked to find Ryo, who doesn't recognize him. This distraction allows the last masked man, Jin, to knock Sakata unconscious. Sakata awakens to find himself before Sunahara, who tells Ryo about the city's demon legend. Sunahara wants Sakata to become that demon and prepares to kill Ryo with his sword, but Takegawa bursts in with guns blazing. Most guards die quickly, and Sunahara uses one of his men as a human shield to escape the room. Sakata calls Ryo's name, and his voice triggers her memories of the incident, revealing that the shot had hit her toy, not her. She runs to hide with Takegawa while Sakata battles Jin, who wields a metal staff. Sunahara returns to watch Jin easily overpower Sakata, who manages only a few hits while Jin continues his assault. After intense struggle, Sakata finds an opening and stabs Jin before throwing him down the stairs. Sunahara then removes Jin's mask, revealing he's his twin brother, distinguished by a burn mark on his face. A flashback shows how they were separated as children but reunited later, with Jin willing to do anything for Sunahara, including murder. Meanwhile, Takegawa attempts to evacuate Ryo, who decides to return for her father. After donning his mask, Sunahara engages Sakata in sword combat. Since Sakata is severely wounded, Sunahara easily slashes him repeatedly until he severs Sakata's free hand. This doesn't stop Sakata, who continues dragging his weakened body to launch more attacks. Sunahara blocks all his strikes but becomes excited, seeing that Sakata has truly become the city's demon. Both men suddenly attack simultaneously, stabbing each other. Sakata uses this moment to unmask Sunahara and deliver a fatal blow to his head. Sakata tumbles down the stairs as Ryo witnesses everything. She tries to approach, but Kanta reappears to shoot Sakata. Kanta then attempts to reconnect with Ryo, who rejects him now that she remembers he killed her mother. He desperately begs for her attention, but Sakata appears behind him and finally kills him with his blade. Sakata collapses in Ryo's arms, offering a few words of love before dying. Later, police, firefighters, and medical personnel arrive to collect the bodies and treat the wounded. Among these bodies is Jean, who remains alive. Ryo is told to wait in an ambulance, but while everyone is distracted, she escapes. A year later, Jean impersonates his deceased brother and wins the mayoral election by garnering sympathy for his facial scar. After an interview, Jean wears the leader's mask and performs a ritual at a forest shrine. At that moment, Ryo appears and shoots Jean with multiple arrows until he's dead. She then drives away in her father's car, keeping a family photograph with her. This brutal tale of vengeance and corruption reveals how organized crime can infiltrate the highest levels of government, using legitimate progress as a cover for heinous activities. Sakata's transformation from loving father to avenging demon illustrates the destructive cycle of violence, while Ryo's final act suggests that the cycle may continue. The story serves as a dark commentary on how trauma can shape destiny and how those in power often sacrifice the innocent for their own gain. Despite the city's apparent prosperity, the rot of corruption runs deep, requiring extreme measures to excise it completely. If you enjoyed this intense crime thriller recap, please subscribe to our channel for more gripping film summaries and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. Don't forget to like this video and let us know in the comments what movie you'd like us to cover next. Thanks for watching.